Hi, I'm Danielle Guernon, and I am a ELA middle school teacher here at St. Joseph Pro-Cathedral School. Today, I am joined by Thabata Velazquez, one of my 8th grade students.
Hello.
Today, she's going to be conducting an interview with Xavier Rogue, who is the co-owner of ARC Real Estate Investments and is also a St. Joseph Pro-Cathedral alumni. Today's interview will be conducted on November 21st, 2022, here at St. Joseph Pro-Cathedral.
I'm Xavier Ruben Roque, graduate from St. Joseph's Pro-Cathedral, class of 2003. I attended from kindergarten all the way through 8th grade. It's an experience that I still talk about to this day with anyone and everyone that I come in contact with. Usually when I introduce myself, one of the first things I say is that I'm from Camden, and then usually talk about my education and foundation that I built here. So I had very close ties with the teachers and students, and Father Bob, Monsignor McDermott, who was here at the time, who really helped shape my childhood and elementary learning. So,
what was your most positive experience in elementary school?
I think being part of the church and also just having the ability to interact with the local community. When we were here, we did a lot of community service, and that was something that really brought all our classmates together. But one highlight that I cherish very deeply is playing on the basketball team. Wasn't very good, but we were a close group. We had a lot of fun, and for most of the time, one of our coaches was actually an alumni from St. Joseph's and my high school, Bishop Eustace, so that was a cool aspect of it as well.
Which teacher left the greatest impact on you while being at St. Joseph?
Oh, that's easy. Her name is Mrs. Watson. She was my 7th grade teacher, but also was my science teacher through 6th through 8th grade. She was the one that challenged me to pursue Bishop Eustace as a high school, and set me on a path that I think forever changed my life, changed who I became, who I am today. Without that experience, I don't know that I'd be, where I am at today. But what I most appreciate about her is that she challenged me. She looked me straight in the eye one day after school, sat me down and said, do you want to just be average, or do you want to see if you have more? And we talked about what high school I should pursue and where she thought I'd be most challenged. And if it had not been for her, I probably would not have gone to Bishop Eustace and had the experience that I had.
What can you tell me about the house you grew up in as a child?
So I grew up on 22nd Street in Federal. Growing up, it was a very tough neighborhood. Our house got broken into often, very young. Wasn't allowed to go outside during specific hours of the day. Was in the time that I was out there, it was very limited. So felt very constrained. My parents tried their best growing up, but they had limited resources, limited education, limited ability to really pursue any careers. So we lived humbly. There was no riches or lavishes or anything like that, but my parents made sure that we were involved here at the school, at church. We went to church every Sunday. After every Sunday, we'd go to the mall and usually catch a movie, and that was kind of our tradition, but very, very closed-minded, if you will, in the sense that we weren't very active in our community, but that did allow us to foster a sense of tightness in our family, right? We were very close. My parents took a lot of time to teach us about our Puerto Rican heritage and what it means to be Latino, and that was one of the things a positive thing that came out of that was that we grew close and also were able to cherish our heritage.
Where did you go to high school, and did you enjoy your high school years?
Yeah, so I attended Bishop Eustace and graduated in 2007. I absolutely loved Bishop Eustace by the end of it, but it didn't start that way. My freshman year, I struggled academically. I struggled socially. I was actually part of a class of 10 students from Camden that attended Bishop Eustace together, and we were all introduced. Some were attended from the public schools, some from CPS schools, and we all went in together. But quickly throughout the year, there was only 2 of us left. So that was very challenging, having the little few folks that I actually was comfortable with not be there for the rest of the year, let alone the entire time that I attended Bishop Eustace. Got picked on, transparently, for being different, for coming from somewhere that, no one else really came from. I didn't understand a lot of their inside jokes or the TV shows they watch or the culture for that matter. So it was very easy for me to exclude myself, but also feel as an outsider. After that first year, though, there were some amazing teachers that realized, that I wasn't integrating as I should have and developing the rapport with my fellow classmates, and they pushed me, just like Miss Watson did. They pushed me to come out of my shell, and the first time that I actually connected with any students at Bishop Eustace was here at the Romero Center. Having that experience allowed us to connect, and so after that outreach program, it was easier for me to talk to my classmates. It was easier for them to approach me. We had, again, a level of understanding that wasn't there previously because we came from completely different ends of the spectrum, if you will. And so after that experience, I think my career, if you want to call it, at Bishop Eustace really took off, and got very involved. I was already part of sports teams, but got more involved into other sports teams. Became president of the multicultural club there, and spread awareness about Latino awareness and Black heritage and things of that nature. Started exploring with different classes like Native American spirituality, and through all these experiences, I got to meet many of my classmates, and again developed that relationship, a level of understanding, and really felt and developed a sense of family. So getting involved in all the different clubs really helped me blossom and open up. And at one point, I even became the mascot for the school, cheering on our football team. So going from a complete introvert in my little hermit crab environment to trying to foster pep rallies and school spirit. So really an evolution over the 4 years, but looking back, it's truly one of the greatest experiences I had. One highlight, part of that Native American spirituality class that I touched on earlier, we were able to, that classroom was able to travel to South Dakota, where we visited a Native American reservation. We got to meet a tribe. We got to spend time with them, learn their way of life firsthand, participated in some of their rituals and spiritual services that they have. And so that was a really groundbreaking experience for me that fostered additional experiences later in college.
What was your biggest academic triumph in high school?
In high school, I think for me it was making the honor society. My first year academically at high school was very challenging. I didn't have a very good GPA that I'm even proud to say now. But by the end of it, I made the honor society, and I had to put in a lot of hours and work, a lot of summers taking extra classes in high school just to catch up and try to get ahead. And the fact that I was able to earn that distinction is certainly a badge of honor for me.
What class do you think contributed most to your career as an adult?
So the class that contributed most to me in my life and career was a storytelling class in college. It was a class that I thought was going to be a softball course. Took it as a way to boost my grades. And it turned out to be very challenging. It focused on literature and arts, and rhetoric and being able to present and speak. One of the assignments was to present to senior citizens and present a story. And it was essentially acting and public speaking and engagement. And I quickly learned the power of public speaking, the power of engaging people through spoken word. And for me, that's been something that I developed as a strength in my career. It's one of the reasons I've been able to excel in my career as I have, because I have a skill set that most people don't have or are afraid to confront, where whether it's a positive engagement, whether it's confrontational, whether it's problem solving, or whether it's having a difficult conversation in the professional realm, that's something that I'm very comfortable doing, and it's propelled my career in ways that I couldn't have imagined.
What did you want to do as a career in high school, and why did you or did you not end up doing that?
That's a great question. So in high school, I wanted to become a doctor. My father was a registered nurse in Puerto Rico, and unfortunately when he came over here to the States, he was unable to renew his license and stopped practicing. But it was something that early on as a child, he and my parents always spoke to me about, was aspiring to careers of grandeur, if you will. So that was always in my head in high school. But when I graduated college, and I was studying for my MCATs, preparing myself for medical school and applying for medical school, I had an opportunity fall into my lap. I was working at a chemistry lab at the time as a broke college student, just trying to pay my bills and trying to save up a little money to apply to medical school. During that time in that workplace, my mentor came up to me and asked me one day randomly, how important is it for you to work in the sciences? And I kind of looked at him like, what are you talking about? I spent 4 years busting my tail getting a bachelor's degree in biology. It's everything, right? And so he asked me again, well, the reason I asked is because I have an opportunity. My father is actually hiring for this company that I had never heard of in a field that I had no interest in going into. And he suggested I really consider it because he felt like I was someone that he could put in front of his father. And to me, that resonated because growing up in Camden and coming to St. Joseph's, all the opportunities I had facilitated for me were because someone had recommended me, had put me on a path, right, and put me in front of another person that could facilitate an opportunity. So I understood and appreciated those types of opportunities. And so when he said that, I couldn't just simply walk away or say no. And so I decided to hear him out. At the time, I also had a second job. I was working in a bar in Chili's, at Chili's in Princeton. And randomly, one of my patrons, after 4 hours of goofing off and being a silly bartender and entertaining my patrons, at the end of the night, he hands me this check and he introduces himself as my friend's father. And my jaw dropped. I'm like, oh my God, this guy was watching me this entire time. And he transparently told me, I came here because I wanted to see you in your environment, to see the type of person you are, how you carried yourself, how you conducted yourself in a professional matter, in a personal matter. And I asked him, well, how did I do? And he said, I want you to come over to my house and I want to invite you over for dinner because I want to talk to you about this opportunity that I think you'd be great for. And so he was working for Lockheed Martin, space and defense company for the United States and NASA. They were located in Newtown, Pennsylvania. And he explained to me what they did, why they did it, and the job that I'd be taking on, which was a very entry-level job, a button pusher, if you will, just managing systems. And after that conversation, I decided to take a leap of faith. The fact that he had hyped the position up to me so much, the opportunity, again, I couldn't turn a blind eye to it. And after taking that leap of faith, my career in supply chain and procurement took off, and that's where I'm doing today. Now I'm at 3 companies later, 12 years into this career. I'm now with Bristol Myers Squibb in a global procurement role where I'm impacting the drugs that many patients around the world need in order to survive and live. And the fact that I get to do a job at that level is just astounding, understanding the humble beginnings of Camden that I came from. So,
what was your biggest non-academic triumph in high school?
My biggest non-academic triumph. I think there's many to pick from, but I think the biggest one was being able to lead a retreat for my classmates, being put in a leadership role after having had such a rough start, and being able to take that on and succeed with that was probably my biggest triumph, because it allowed me to step out of my comfort zone, take on a leadership role, but also, again, continue to foster and develop relationships with my classmates. I ended up going to the College of New Jersey. The main reason was because I got a scholarship to attend. It was a college that I knew nothing about at the time. I had aspirations to attend Drexel, and while I got accepted, I didn't have any financial aid or scholarships that compared to what I got compared to what I got at TCNJ. One of the reasons that I even applied was because one of my counselors at Bishop Eustace recommended me the college, very much like Miss Watson did, and had identified a scholarship program that she knew I was eligible for and had a high chance of succeeding and attaining. So I remember getting my acceptance letter and turning the second page and reading that I had been accepted into their Equal Opportunity Funds program, which was huge. It facilitated the first 2 years, completely paid off. And if I kept my grades up, I would have the opportunity and receive assistance to pursue additional scholarships. So that was the biggest deciding factor for me. After visiting the school, after I was accepted, I absolutely fell in love with my decision. I fell in love with the campus and the program, and felt right at home. TCNJ is a very small school. It reminded me much of St. Joseph's and Bishop Eustace in that environment that they fostered in the culture of this family environment, but also was big enough that it was a challenge. And so that was the reason why I decided to pursue TCNJ.
What was your favorite class in college and why?
My favorite class in college was, I'm going to say classes, were my biology classes. And there's a special reason for this. My freshman year, there was a professor that had confronted me about my eligibility to be there at the college. And I remember being completely destroyed, my self-esteem. I remember going back to my dorm room and in tears of anger and sadness. And my girlfriend, who was now my wife at the time, consulted me, and we spoke about it. And I developed a chip on my shoulder, if you will, to prove that I belonged, to prove that I could succeed. And so I took on every biology class head on. It was almost like a sporting event for me, where I'm the underdog and I'm going in and taking this very challenging class and trying to hit a home run and knock it out the park. And so I enjoyed those classes the most because it brought out a whole new side of me that I didn't know I had. It developed a hunger in me to not only prove someone wrong, but also to prove to myself that I had it in me. And so for me, that was one aspect that made those the most enjoyable, but I'm also a nerd at heart. So biology is one of my favorite topics. It's one of the reasons why I work in the pharmaceutical industry today. It's one of the reasons why I pursued a career to make drugs and biologics that impact so many people's lives all over the world. The most interesting thing I did in college was a missions trip to Nairobi, Kenya. It was after my freshman year. A bunch of the EOF students that were science majors were afforded an opportunity to team up with a religious organization. They're non-denominational in the sense that they welcome all sorts of religions, but very Christian-based. And about 25 of us students were able to participate in this organization founded by doctors that considered themselves Doctors Without Borders. They traveled the world, bringing and facilitating clinics and drugs and medications to underdeveloped parts of the world. This organization in particular had been working on building an orphanage in Nairobi, Kenya. And so they were going back to continue the work that they had started, and we were going to run a week-long clinic where we were administrating vaccines and medications and examining the people of Nairobi. And that was one of the most moving experiences of my life. It's almost like life constantly reminded me, and God constantly reminded me that every time I thought I had it tough, to appreciate what I had, because things could always be tougher, and that people out in the world are going through much tougher times. And so that experience really opened my eyes to that reminder that there are people who do struggle, and that I'm very fortunate to have what I had, but also helped me secure my decision to pursue a career in medicine, in pharmaceuticals, whether it was being a doctor or not, but to remain in that industry so that I can continue bringing the power of medicine to people.
What can you say about some of the things you're most proud of during your career?
Probably one of the proudest things I can say is that I don't have a graduate degree and that I'm able to operate at a high level. I've had positions where I've managed 30, 40 people at a time early on in my career. I think I was maybe 26 or 27. I don't know how many other folks can say that they've had that type of experience. And in my experience, usually folks that are put in those types of positions have decades of experience, have seen a lot, have experienced a lot, and I did it with none of that. So for me, that's certainly another badge that I proudly wear, is that I've been able to lead large organizations. I've also been able to become a trailblazer with these big companies. I've been able to start processes, rewrite procedures, being able to implement agreements and things that had not been there previously, that had no precedent. And so again, this theme of navigating uncharted waters has continued to be a theme in my professional career. But I think that's one of the things that's special about my experience from CPS, St. Joseph's, TCNJ, is that it all prepared me for that. All those experiences, all those opportunities culminated and put me in a position to excel where others honestly had failed before me. I'll share this with you. I worked at an employer where I had 13 different bosses. And that's a very difficult environment to be in, where you don't have a constant leader. But that was the environment where I was able to lead a team of 40. I was able to become that leader without having had that mentor role model there. And for me, that's one of the biggest and most important experiences of my career and my life, that I know now I can take on any challenge. I'm ready, and I'm always chasing the next biggest thing out there, the next opportunity. And yeah, that's been most impactful for me.
Have the conditions you've grown up in, neighborhood house, or like even the schools you went to, influenced your decision for your career or job?
Yes, absolutely. So while I'm very proud to say that I'm from Camden, I appreciate the experience that I've had. I think anyone who grows up in Camden or has grown up in Camden when I did has always had an aspiration to move on to better things. So for me, it was very important to make sure that I was able to move on, so that when I started my family, they would be further along in life than I was when I started. But also important to help my parents get out of that. Sorry, give me a minute. No, it's very important for me to have come back and put myself in a position where, that I can take my parents out of that environment. And I'm happy to say that today they moved on to better things.
What are some of your favorite books and why?
My favorite books, you're going to laugh, are the Harry Potter series.
Oh, geez.
I was 11 years old when the book came out. I picked it up at Harry Potter's age, and so I followed Harry Potter through that entire series growing up. It is one of my favorite movies as well. My wife hates the fact that it's always on TV, because I will watch it and rewatch them over and over again, but I will read them over and over again. I bought my daughter her very own Harry Potter set. She's only 2. She's not ready for them, but she has them. And yeah, it's one of the books that there's no real earth-shattering life lessons in it. It's just a great, fun read that allows you to become a kid again. Take your imagination into this wonderful world of wizards and witchcraft and magic, and something that I truly enjoy. And again, it resonates with my childhood.
What are some of your favorite bands or musicians and why?
Oh, My favorite bands and musicians, so I love all types of music, from country to hip hop, reggae, salsa, bachata, everything in between. But I have developed a special place in my heart for old school rock and roll. Red Hot Chili Peppers are one of my favorite, and AC/DC are probably second favorite.
Do you consider yourself to be religious? And if so, can you describe your faith and what it means to you?
I absolutely do consider myself religious. Coming back to my experience at CPS and Monsignor McDermott, who really helped me get involved in the church. I became an altar boy in the 4th or 5th grade. I served in the church as an altar boy through sophomore year of high school here at St. Joseph's. Attending Bishop Eustace certainly helped develop my faith and my perspective on religion, having been able to participate in religion courses all the way through college even, where I even continued learning about Buddhism, Hinduism, and Judaism, and all these other religions over the years. I think my faith has been challenged over and over again. I'll share a special point where I think my faith really helped me get it over and get through. I was, I think, a sophomore or junior in college. My father attempted to take his own life. It was days after my grandfather's funeral. And so for the previous 6 months up until that point, my father was taking care of his father. And it was very difficult for him to cope with. He had also been battling an addiction issue. And it got to be too much, and he took that step and attempted his life. And for me, for my family, it was one of the most challenging times of our lives. We had just lost our grandfather. My father is now in a coma. This is all happening in Puerto Rico, by the way. We're away from our home. It was at a point in my career where I was starting to hit my stride, and now have this very challenging experience in my life to deal with. And my family, was struggling. My mother was a mess. My grandmother even more so. And so, one of the things that we consistently did was pray and ask for strength. And again, leaning on that faith and that foundation that I was able to build here. All the important lessons that Monsignor McDermott had instilled in me about being a good Christian, being a good Catholic, and the love that God has for us, and that there's that one saying, God won't put a challenge in front of us that we can't overcome. And certainly was true during that point in my life. And again, coming back to all those other experiences about becoming a leader and taking that leadership role, I was able to do that and help navigate my family during those tough times.
What do you think is important or most positive about Catholic education?
The most positive thing about Catholic education, one, there's a few things. So the first thing is you develop these core concepts, these commandments, if you will, to live by, about being a good person, a good Christian, a good brother, sister, son, friend, now father, that carry on with you your entire life, right? I mean, God gave us Jesus, and he gave up his life for us. And so when you realize and understand what that means, and you understand all the values that come with that, it's something that you carry on, and it's instilled in you. So having had a Catholic schooling was super critical, because it continued to help remind me and underscore that theme, what it means to be Catholic and Christian, a person of faith and a Christian. In high school, it continued, right? Bishop Eustace is a Catholic school, and having that constant reminder and teachings and being able to further deepen my understanding of Catholicism and other religions, for that matter, helped strengthen those values, those core concepts and the core themes that the Catholic faith instills in us. Do unto others as you want to have done unto you, right? And in Bishop Eustace, one of the things I learned was the charity of Christ, urges us to do more, right? And so when you are put in experience in college where now you're being exposed to many different ways of thinking, some that aren't religious based, some that aren't Catholic, some that aren't faith based at all, it can be challenging. Your faith gets challenged in a way that you wouldn't have understood, because now you begin to question a lot of things. But having had that experience has helped me remind me of where I come from, what I learned, what my values are, what God wants us to do, and how He wants us to be. And so it's certainly been everything for me personally, because it's helped me keep me on the straight and narrow, if you will. Anytime I was ever in a situation where I felt like it wasn't somewhere where I should be, where I was being asked or put in a position to be able to do something that was out of character, I was able to rely on my Catholic faith and teachings, and been able to, again, stay the course and be a good Christian and be the person and man that God wants us to be. So, piece of advice for any student here at St. Joe's, or any CPS school for that matter, is that you should always push yourself and challenge yourself. I'll say to any student, use me as an example. I'm a kid from Camden. First language is Spanish. Had no business, having the experiences that I had and the opportunities I had, and I made the most of them. And when you do that and you look back, you can say that you have no regrets, that you've excelled, that you thrived. And one of the things that I think I have appreciated most in my life and career has never been the end point. It's never been the accomplishments, the accolades. It's been the journey to get there. The struggle, as challenging as it may be for many of us, is probably the most beautiful piece of it all. Be comfortable with being uncomfortable, and always rely on your family, your teachers, your faith, and your experiences from CPS, because they will last you a lifetime.
We hope you enjoyed this interview.
Please like, share, and follow for more.